in 2015, the FBI ran the world's largest abuse website on purpose for 13 days, all by themselves. They didn't shut it down. They seized the server, moved it to a government facility in Virginia, and kept it running. So they could infect every single person who logged in with malware and rip the mask off their anonymity. That's a hard word to say. That's not a theory. That's not a court case. Hundreds of people were prosecuted for it. And here's the part that should make the hair on your neck stand up. It means the United States government is completely willing to run the crime in order to catch the people drawn to it. So tonight I'm asking a simple question. If they'll do it once with the website, why would they stop at one? What if the trap isn't the exception? What if the trap is the business model? What if the most watched material on the internet is also the most perfect blackmail machine ever built, and it's already been switched on? I'm Ethan Page. Let's turn the pages. So let's start with the one that they can't deny, because it's already in the court record. It's called Operation Pacifier. And just the name of that made me a little bit grossed out. The website was called Playpen. I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia link because it's website safe, or YouTube safe, and Spotify or wherever this ends up long term, But yeah, I'm going to pull up this link. Give me 1 second. This is the I'll just share my screen. So this right here was a darknet CP website that operated from August 2014 to March 2015. So about 7 months. For half of 1 month, it was completely run by the FBI, right? Right here it says, after his arrest of the main orchestrator, who I'm not going to glorify by naming, after his arrest, the FBI continued to run the website for another 13 days as part of Operation horribly named Operation. In December 2014, now I'm reading summaries from this, right? But in December 2014, the FBI got a tip, found the real server, and then they seized it. From there, they made a choice that still stuns lawyers who work the cases today. They did not shut it down. They ran it, like I've said, for roughly 2 weeks from an FBI facility in Virginia. I wonder where, or if it says it. Virginia is a hub for a lot of three-letter agencies. For example, Langley, Virginia is where the CIA is headquartered, if I remember right. I think the ATF has some buildings in Virginia. It sounds like FBI does too. Anyways, while they ran it, they deployed malware, which, by the way, that's another crime. But besides the point, I don't sympathize with the victims of hacking when those victims are harming kids, but a crime is still a crime, and we need to hold our government accountable. This gets back to the Patriot Act, which was passed after 9/11. This gets back to various forms of legislation that little by little has stripped away our privacy, which is enshrined in our Constitution. We do have a right to privacy. You do not have a right to own a car. You don't. You don't have a right to own a horse and carriage, which is when the Constitution was written. You don't have that right. You have a right to travel. You have a right to travel freely without restriction, right? Kind of same thing with privacy. You don't have a public expectation of privacy if you're out and open with your kids and there happens to be a camera that flashes a photo. It's something that my wife and myself worry about all the time because I don't want my kid online. But anyways, I don't have the same expectation of privacy in person as I do with my own stuff. We're talking about people's individual devices. right? If you deploy malware on my computer, that's a crime. That's an invasion of my privacy, right? If I'm on the public Wi-Fi and you find out what internets I'm on because of the public Wi-Fi, that's not exactly the same thing. Hopefully we're caught up now. Hopefully we're caught up now. That was a bad way to explain it because I haven't had coffee, and at time of recording it's about 6 a.m. So probably could use a coffee, but that's fine. So the malware was called an NIT, a network investigative technique, which is just a friendly government word for a hacking tool, like I said. Onto the computer of everybody who logged in. It punched through Tor, which I'm not going to say on stream how I know what Tor is, but give it a Google. Tor. A Tor. It allows you to get on other places of the internet. Yeah. Which, you know what, I've already said it. I might as well sanity check myself a little bit so that way I don't have somebody knocking on my door from a 3-letter agency. I was simply curious about what you could do on the internet. You can see literally anything you want to see on the internet. You can buy literally anything you want to buy on the internet. I thought it was a myth, like just one of those 4chan conspiracy theories. Oh, you know, you can actually. So there's an internet, and then there's a deep web, which is the only place that I got to. I just got to the deep web, but there's the regular internet. There's the deep web. Oh, I don't know if this is on camera appropriately. Yeah, regular internet. There's the deep web, and then you have the dark web, right? I've never went to the dark web. The dark web is like mostly federal agents trying to catch people committing crime. The deep web is mostly giggly retards like me. Excuse my French. It's mostly just giggly idiots like me that want to see what's out there. I've seen a lot of violent crime that I didn't necessarily sign up for because it's just everything's on one location. You can find an encyclopedia, if you will. And it's anything from drugs, firearms, graphic, violent imagery, like cartel violence or military footage that hasn't been released through congressional approval, which I'm pretty sure that's a massive crime too. But anyways, yeah, dude. So that's what Tor is. Tor is a way to get there, and I'm not going to explain any further because that's not what my podcast is about, and I don't want to make it about that. But to summarize it before we get to the next topic here, I didn't use it for criminality purposes. I used it for giggly reasons because no way, dude, no way. There's no way that exists. Oh, So yeah, I've definitely had my retinas burned from things I've accidentally viewed on Tor. Yeah, humans are capable of extreme violence, and it's actually really sad. I don't think I am unless in the protection of a child, I think. And even then, like, I would probably hesitate before I struck, I don't know. I'm a human, you know what I mean? I can't do extreme violence. Maybe other people can. But anyways, it punched through Tor. It grabbed the user's real IP address and it sent it back to the FBI. Now, the result was more than 1,000 computers were unmasked worldwide. Here's the fun part. Only 956 arrests were made. So there's people out there today that were totally caught up in this that did not get criminally prosecuted. Now, knowing what we know, where's that extra 50 to a couple hundred people? Now sit with the mechanics of that. To catch the people using the site, the government became the site. For 2 weeks, the FBI was functionally the world's largest distributor of the worst material on the internet. A civil rights attorney on the case put it bluntly. Might not be able to say some of this quote, so we're going to, there's something tawdry and sick about FBI agents peddling corn. They're corn farmers. They're out in Iowa. The Electronic Frontier Foundation said the Bureau committed the exact crime it was trying to stop. And a defense lawyer argued that the FBI didn't just run the site, they improved it. And the traffic went up while they had the wheel. That's disgusting. Now, this wasn't a one-off situation either. The same reporting shows that the FBI had used this honeypot trick before. Smaller versions in 2011. They have a history of this. So again, the first one was in 2011. The one I shared you with first was 2014 to 2015. So across multiple presidential terms, or actually, excuse me, 2011. Yeah, 2011. It's still Obama, but over multiple presidential terms. The same reporting showed that we did the same thing in 2011. And there it is. I was trying to find my note. And a foreign law enforcement agency partnered with them, was running another abused website for at least 4 months after. Okay, so I actually pulled up the wrong link, which is fine. That was just a secondary link. That first one was a secondary link to my first story. My apologies. This is Vice.com. Everybody knows Vice.com. These guys are a pretty good magazine company. I don't know if they do magazines anymore. But anyways, online journalism, we'll call it. Great company. They've done some really good articles on like cannabis over the years, recreational drugs, just like Gen Z and millennial news, we'll call it. They're a great company though. Definitely left leaning, but that's besides the point. If you've got good journalism, you got good journalism. Now, we've already talked about this main story, so I'm going to try to find the meat and potatoes here because we've already had some of our other ones. Whoops. I'm trying to get this ad to go away. Here we go. So the FLA had seized another website only identified as website 2. This one was operational for 4 months after seizure with no indication that the FLA had given up control. Now the FLA, I think I had already named them earlier. It's hard to keep up with all these acronyms. There it is. Foreign Law Enforcement Agency. There it is. So a foreign law enforcement agency actually helped out with the case. And you see later on that a foreign law enforcement agency had not given up control after the ring had been found and operated. They had not given up control. I wonder who that foreign law enforcement agency is. I wonder if they fund 93% of our Congress. I wonder if they were a small country that's only a sixth of the size of my state in the Middle East. I wonder. I don't know. Anyways, the honeypot is not a conspiracy theory. It's a documented, repeated, court-tested government tactic. Seize the trap, keep it running, catch everybody who walks in. Now you hold that exact blueprint in your head because I'm about to show you how the same machine works when nobody bothers to tell you that it's running. Now we're going to get into chapter 2. You are already being tracked. Okay, so that was the deep web-ish, deep-ish dark web. There's no like hard line on it, obviously. It's just categorical. But that was the deep web, Tor, hidden services, the deep end. You're thinking, that's not me. I'm just a normal person on a normal website. Good. Let's talk about the normal websites because it's arguably worse. Now, here's the thing that nobody realizes, or almost nobody realizes. Adult entertainment websites are some of the most aggressively tracked properties on the entire internet. Studies have repeatedly found that the majority of adult websites leak user data to third parties, trackers from major tech companies embedded on pages where people are at their most exposed. We already know that tech companies are not our friends. It's been proven a million times. We don't need to exaggerate anything or make this episode longer than necessary. That data, what you look at, when, from what device, is, and also tied to your IP, it gets logged and then it gets sold to advertisers, which we've already been aware of. But it's also to data brokers, and the same brokers who build detailed profiles on every one of us and sell them to whoever pays. Let me just say that again. They build detailed profiles on every person on the internet and sells them to the highest bidder. If that sounds legal, congrats. It sadly is legal. So until we make it illegal, we need to continue talking about it. But think about what that actually means. There is a file somewhere in the data broker economy. There is a profile that can tie a real human being to their most private browsing. Not because a spy planted a camera, but because the website's own ad trackers sold it as a product. You didn't get hacked, you got inventoried. The blackmail folder builds itself automatically on millions of people every single day. Nobody has to break in because the door was never locked. And the breaches are real and massive, by the way. A single adult cam website, I think. What is that? Adult. Okay. Sorry, I was just making sure my notes were written well. So a single adult cam website, a website called Cam4 leaked around 11 billion records in 2020. It was one of the biggest data breaches in internet history. Names, email addresses, sexual orientation, chat logs, and even payment information. 11 billion records from one site. That's not a leak. That's a reservoir. And once it's out forever. Every one of those records is a potential lever on a real person. The infrastructure for mass sexual blackmail doesn't need to be built by some shadowy agency. It's already been built by the industry itself, and it leaks like a sieve. Now we have chapter 3, which is about sextortion as a service. Now let's talk about what happens when somebody actually pulls the lever, because this is no longer hypothetical either. It has a name, it is an epidemic, and it's growing faster than almost any other cybercrime on earth. Sextortion. It sounds like a cute little name or fun little thing you'd use to sensationalize a crime, but somebody gets or claims to have sexual material or browsing history on you and threatens to send it to your family, your boss, your school, your contacts. You get the point, unless you pay. The most common version of it right now is the quote-unquote hello pervert email. The scammer claims they installed spyware, recorded you through your webcam watching something embarrassing, and copied your whole contact list. Pay up now in crypto, or everyone you know finds out. Now, I'm going to pull up a link. Hopefully it's not broken. Okay. Some of these words I can't really say on YouTube, so we're going to do our part to navigate around it. But there we go. It's about Pegasus. So Pegasus, there's supposed to be an actual. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is. There is an actual um this whole article is a role play of the actual situation. So I'm going to link the article in the bottom, of course, with the description. But after the colons, for example, I'll read you a couple things. It says, "I doubt you'd want your friends, family, or coworkers to know about it. However, I can do it in a few clicks." That's the threat. So yeah, so like they're giving you a couple of sentences throughout each paragraph that are going to build together the total picture of what one of these mocked up things look like, right? Goodness, I got something in my eyelash, of course. Anyways, Pegasus is a big issue. We're gonna get to that here in a little bit, but most of these specific emails that you're gonna see, they're actually just a bluff. But here's why the bluff works. Everybody now knows the technology to actually do it exists. The threat is plausible because the capability is real. And that's the genius of it. The scammer doesn't even actually need the footage. They just need you to believe it's possible. And it is possible because we've all read the headlines. We know phones can be turned into microphones. We know browsing history gets tracked even while we're at work when we're using private browsers or whatever you want to call it. We know that webcam light doesn't always come on, doesn't always tell you that it's recording, right? Even right now, I actually have a camera on my laptop. I can't turn it off physically. I can electronically turn it off, and Apple can say it's off. I'm trusting that it's not recording me right now. But another one of my devices is, right? So you get my point. The fear does work, or the fear does the work the malware used to have to do. And a scared person reaching for their crypto wallet doesn't ask for proof. Some of these operations pose as law enforcement using the same fear from Chapter 1. We're the FBI. We caught you. Pay the fine. Because thanks to Playpen, that was over a decade ago, that's believable now too. See how it all tracks? The government ran a real honeypot, so a fake cop email lands. The industry tracks everyone, so we have your history threat lands. Or excuse me, so we have your history threat lands. Every real piece of this machine makes the fake pieces more effective. It's an ecosystem, and it's feeding on shame. Now, let me tell you about the oldest trick in the intelligence playbook. Because once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. It's called compromat, which is not English. It means compromising material. It's the most effective recruitment tool ever invented. And that's because it doesn't cost a salary. It costs a secret. Now, here's how it works. You don't threaten somebody. You own a moment that they cannot survive being public. A file, a folder, a drive, a dossier even. Something that they clicked that they can never explain. And from that moment on, you don't have to ask them for anything twice. Because the alternative to cooperating is the thumb drive that goes public. And this is where you start looking at people differently. Because every time you see somebody make a sudden, inexplicable reversal, a 180 that you were totally not expecting, a person who was one thing and then overnight became the other. Every time somebody with power exits in a way that doesn't add up, every time a loud voice goes suddenly and permanently quiet, I'm not telling you what happened to any specific person. I'm just telling you that there's a mechanism that produces exactly that. There's a mechanism that produces exactly that behavior, and it runs on a thumb drive. The rumor mill runs wild with these. This figure, that figure, somebody was holding something on them. And most of it you will never actually be able to prove because that's the entire point of leverage. It works in the dark. But the mechanism itself, the thumb drive, that's not a rumor. That's a 100-year documented spycraft tactic. The only thing that's ever unknown is whose name goes in the blank. So when the next one breaks, and there's always a next one, don't ask why would they do that. Ask what's on the drive. Because in a world where every private thing you've ever done is already sitting in a folder somewhere, the person holding that folder doesn't need your permission. They just need your fear. Now we're going to get into chapter 4. This is about the Israeli machine that makes it real. Now, everything so far, the honeypot, the trackers, the sextortion, you might still think, okay, but nobody actually has a magic tool that turns my phone into a surveillance device against me specifically. Let me introduce you to the company that does exactly that. And yes, you'll want to know where they're based. There's an Israeli company called the NSO Group. Their flagship product is spyware called Pegasus. We're going to pull it up on Britannica, which is an online encyclopedia, so you guys can literally get all over it if you want to. There's link, right? But from their own well-researched angle, it's a spyware developed by Israeli cyber intelligence firm NSO Group, which was founded only in 2010, for eavesdropping on mobile phones and harvesting their data. The spyware has been highly controversial, used to track politicians, government leaders, human rights activists, dissidents, and journalists. I want you guys to know, no matter where you are, you're on that. You're on that. If you make content creation, they're going to say you're a journalist. If you disagree with them, they're going to call you a dissident. In some cases, if you disagree with their war crimes, they're going to call you a human rights activist. And obviously, politicians and government leaders, pretty much not applicable to us. But they're using broad strokes to paint with their brush. Now, NSO Group claims its product is sold exclusively to government security and law enforcement agencies, and only, of course, it's only for the purpose of aiding rescue operations and battling criminals, such as money launderers, sex and drug traffickers, and terrorists. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Now, when Pegasus is secretly installed on a phone, it gives the attacker complete access. Messages, emails, photos, the microphone, the camera, calls, contacts, everything. Often through a zero-click exploit, meaning you don't even actually have to tap anything. If you guys remember the phishing scams and the link scams and the emails, you had to actually make a mistake to get hacked. You had to slip up. This was a crime that mostly only impacted the elderly. No shame to the elderly, but that would make sense. It's a new technology. You're an older demographic. This is going to pull some wool over your eyes. I work in the insurance industry, as has been well established. The majority of my customers are people that have to change their cards once a year because something happens. Let's just put that out in verbal, right? This stuff impacts the elderly more. Pegasus impacts everybody because you don't actually have to make a mistake. That's the whole point. Now, this isn't fringe. This isn't fringe at all. In 2021, a leak of 50,000 phone numbers, potential surveillance targets, triggered a massive investigation called the Pegasus Project. More than 80 journalists across 70 news organizations in 10 countries, with forensic support from Amnesty International. I'm going to see if I can get Wikipedia to be my friend. I want to see if it's going to show me some of those names on the target list. Let me see. Oh, yeah. There we go. So I'm going to show you guys the heads of state that were involved in this one. Okay. So some of the big names right off the gate. Emmanuel Macron was a target for this. You guys already know who he is. He is the victim of abuse. He was groomed and trafficked by his teacher, who is 100% a man and probably has a bigger penis than I do. And that guy is 25 years older than Macron. Brigitte or Jean-Luc Brunel, whatever you want to call. Or not Jean-Luc Brunel, that's another pedophile. I'm sorry. Wow. Jean-Michel Trocno is Brigitte's real name, most likely. Anyways, she's a pedo. She's a honeypot. And now she's the first lady of France. So this guy's already been a victim of that abuse. He's the victim of Pegasus. He's got ties to a lot of things. But yeah, we'll go through some of the other ones. Look, we got the Prime Minister of Egypt, former Prime Minister of Algeria, former President of Algeria. You got Edouard Philippe, former Prime Minister of France, former President of Iraq. The list goes on. Okay, there's some big names on here. King of Morocco was a target. And it gets deeper. Like, there's investigative journalists, there's human rights activists. It goes down country by country. I recommend you guys going into the Wikipedia. Again, Pegasus Project. Now, I want you guys, if you do go, please read the target list that they found, because you'll be there for a few minutes for sure. Probably a good 10-minute read, just going through everybody and pulling up their names and hyperlinks and doing that thing, right? But read that target list they found. Heads of state, activists, journalists, including the family of Jamal Khashoggi, which he's related to the Las Vegas shooting. He's related to a lot of things. He's a journalist that was lured into a consulate and dismembered. I was trying to find another word for that. Didn't have one. Pegasus, which was this Israeli-made tool, this was identified as the weapon of choice for repressive governments trying to silence dissidents. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Mexico. That's pretty close to home, boys. This is a commercial product made in Israel, sold to governments. That turns any phone into a total surveillance device. Camera and microphone included. Now, connected back. The whole sextortion economy runs on the fear that somebody watches you through your own device. NSO built and sells the thing that actually does it to states and governments for money. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that NSO is running the adult entertainment websites. I have no evidence of that, and I won't invent it. But I don't need to. Here's the point that doesn't require a single leap of conspiracy. The tool that does exactly what every sextortion scammer pretends to do, the phone in your pocket turned against you, the camera, the mic, it's real and it's commercial. It's not some tiny scammer. It is commercial. It's an Israeli operation, and it's already been aimed at journalists and dissidents around the world. The capability is not science fiction. It's a product with a sales team. So when I could ask, who could be holding leverage? I'm not asking a crazy question. I'm asking who their customers are. Now we'll get into Chapter 5. I said operation. Chapter 5. This is called a liberation trap, aka OnlyFans. Now the part that's going to make half of the internet mad at me. Because while all of this is happening, we've been sold the story that is the answer to this industry, if you will. Even to the side of what I've been talking about, there's rumors that the adult entertainment industry is incredibly harmful to women. And I'm not talking about morality. I'm talking about abuse. I'm talking about the real likelihood that a lot of these women did not actually consensually become adult creators. And we're literally forced to keep it short and simple. But we were sold a story that this was the answer to that. It's called OnlyFans. Now, the pitch is seductive and everywhere. Creators, mostly women, and also I was going to say some homosexual men, but I think it's just men in general. There's probably straight men on there. But creators, mostly women, are taking back control. They're owning their bodies, their content, their income. They're cutting out the exploitative middleman. Freedom, liberation, sex positivity as self-employment. And there's the trap. To do it, you hand over your government ID to an adult platform. You put your face, your body, your legal identity permanently into the exact data ecosystem we just spent a half hour describing. Now think it through. The liberation requires you to permanently attach your real, legal, verified identity to explicit material, on a platform in a data economy that we've just proven tracks everything, leaks everything, and sells everything. That is not taking control. That is volunteering for the file. You didn't escape the system. You uploaded yourself to it with your ID, and then you thanked it for the opportunity to make a couple bucks. And it's permanent. The content, once it exists, can be copied, can be leaked, and resurfaced forever. Years later, a new job, a custody case, a political run, a marriage. The leverage is already sitting there. The internet does not forget, and neither do the people who collect this stuff. There are Reddit accounts, there are Reddit pages, Twitter. You can go anywhere and look up, regretfully, any adult creator that you want to, and I guarantee you, her OnlyFans is leaked. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. The empowerment framing is doing something clever. It reframes handing over the most blackmailable material about yourself as an act of freedom. It gets people to walk into the honeypot smiling, believing they're the ones in charge, because you're getting paid for it. That's the most elegant trap of all. The FBI had to seize a server to build their honeypot. The data brokers had to embed trackers to build theirs. But the liberation honeypot? People build it themselves. They line up for it. They're told that permanently attaching their identity to explicit content is the most empowering thing that they can do. And the people who profit from that content and the people who might one day want leverage just sit back and let the signups roll in. Real freedom doesn't require you to file your identity with a corporation to access it. Now, Chapter 6. Who's holding the lever? Before we actually get into Chapter 6, OnlyFans, I don't believe, has any Israeli connections. I think that's a Canadian company, and I don't know off the top of my head. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But I don't think that has any Israeli connections, besides maybe some people on their team, right? Yeah, we'll just say that, because I don't know factually. But as a Jewish man myself, we exist, obviously. There's a huge likelihood that somebody on OnlyFans is Israeli connected or Jewish connected or whatever. I'm just saying the CEO is not, the founder is not, and it's not related to some of the earlier stuff in this episode. But still an issue for me. Now, Chapter 6. So who's holding the lever? Pull the lever, Kronk, for my Gen Z kids out there that like Emperor's New Groove, Cusco. Pull the lever, Kronk. Okay, now let me put the whole machine on the table, and then I'll tell you what I actually think and what I don't. The government has proven that it will run the trap itself. That's called playpen. It is court record. I hate all these names, by the way. I do not like that they're kitty oriented. It's gross. It also confirms a lot of my confirmation bias regarding the deep state elites that are definitely harming kids. Anyways, the industry tracks and sells your most private behavior by default. That's the data broker economy. It's well documented. Breaches have already spilled billions of these records into the open. Cam 4 was documented. Sextortion is a booming crime built on the plausibility of all of the above. Documented. And a commercial Israeli-made tool exists that does exactly what the blackmailers pretend to. Total access to your device. That's Pegasus, documented by 80 journalists, most of whom were the target of it. And that's how they found out. Now, every single component of a mass blackmail machine already exists. Not as a theory, as a documented, sourced, court-tested, journalist-verified fact. The trap, the tracking, the leak, the tool, the leverage. It's all built. It's all been used. The only thing I can't hand you tonight is a signed memo saying, here's the person pulling all the levers at once. Excuse me, man. I'm trying to get through this, guys. I didn't bring my drink up here, so I got dry mouth and I got hiccups. I'm just struggling. Anyways, the only thing I can't do tonight is hand you a signed memo that says, here is the person pulling all of the levers. At once, on purpose, against you. I don't have that, and I'm not going to fake it. But here's what I will say, and I will stand on it. When every piece of a weapon is real, and every piece has already been fired at least once, You don't get to call somebody paranoid for asking who's holding it. The people who tell you nobody would ever assemble that are the same people who said the FBI would never run a child porn website. And then the FBI ran a child porn website. So what can you actually do? You stop volunteering. You assume the file exists. You cover your camera genuinely with a piece of tape tonight. You stop handing your identity to a platform that can profit from it. You teach your kids that the internet is not a diary. It is a permanent record that is owned by strangers. And you stop believing that the thing which makes you maximally exposed is somehow freedom. The most private thing about you is the most valuable thing that you own. They have spent 20 years convincing you to give it away for free, sometimes for fun, sometimes for empowerment, sometimes just for convenience. Stop. In a world where the blackmail machine is already built and already running, the most radical thing you can do is be the most deliberately, genuinely, unashamedly private. I'm Ethan Page. Let's turn the pages.